They say the Rocky Mountains are where America keeps her secrets. Hidden among the red sandstone ridges and snow-chiseled peaks of southern Colorado stands a fortress that doesn't make noise, not because it can't, but because it's designed never to. Its name is ADX Florence, and those who've been there call it the place where the world forgets you. From the air, it looks geometric, rows of concrete, razor wire coiled like snakes, guard towers rising like watchful sentinels. But what the satellite photos don't show is the stillness. The kind that presses against your eardrums, thick and unbroken, until you start hearing your own blood pulse. This isn't an ordinary prison. It's the most secure facility in the United States, and maybe the world, built to contain men the system has labeled uncontainable. When the first rays of sun hit the walls each morning, the concrete doesn't glow. It absorbs the light, swallowing it whole. Inside those walls live roughly 400 men, terrorists, cartel lords, spies, and killers who have outwitted every other system. But ask any of them what breaks a man here, and they won't say the isolation, or the guards, or even the time. They'll say, it's the silence. Each cell is a bunker within a bunker, 12 feet long, 7 feet wide, with furniture molded from concrete so nothing can be moved, broken, or hidden. The bed, the desk, even the stool are part of the wall. A steel door seals everything in, leaving only a narrow slit for food and a window angled upward at the sky. Most inmates can't see the horizon, only a slice of blue, like a painting you can't touch. For 23 hours a day, that's all they get, 4 inches of light and the sound of their own mind echoing back at them. The other hour? A recreation cage, an outdoor pen made of wire mesh, the size of a small garage. There's no grass, no sky view, just concrete and metal. Guards call it fresh air time. Inmates call it the hour of ghosts. Some of the men whisper to the vents, trying to talk to whoever's on the other side. Some tap the walls, a primitive code, just to remind themselves that someone else is still alive in there. Others stop talking entirely. Psychologists have a name for what happens next: sensory deprivation breakdown. It's what occurs when the human brain, starved of touch, sound, and change, starts to eat itself. Reports from inside tell of men pacing in perfect squares for hours, tracing cracks on the floor like maps. One inmate was said to spend entire days rearranging crumbs from his meals, forming shapes only he could understand. Another reportedly wept for days because he heard a radio playing somewhere, though there was none. For guards, the silence is both a weapon and a shield. They follow strict routes, eyes cold and professional. No unnecessary words, no small talk, no names exchanged. Their training manual forbids emotional involvement, because inside ADX Florence, emotion can be dangerous. You can't let them see you care, one former officer said. The moment you do, you stop being invisible, and invisibility keeps you alive. In the control center, the brain of the fortress, dozens of monitors glow in the dark. Every door, every motion sensor, every heartbeat is tracked in real time. There's no such thing as privacy. Even the shower is watched through a reinforced window. Each inmate's voice is logged, their routine time to the second. If a man sneezes off schedule, someone in that room notices. And yet, even with all that control, ADX has secrets. There are stories that don't appear in official reports. Whispers of inmates talking to walls that answer back, of cell lights flickering when no one's in the corridor, of men who wake up convinced they've been moved to a different cell, though the coordinates never changed. No one really knows what that place does to the human mind, but everyone agrees it does something. After a few months, one psychologist said, you stop being afraid of death. You start being afraid of mirrors. At night, when the lights dim and the hum of electricity becomes the only sound, something eerie happens. The entire prison breathes. The ventilation system sighs through the halls like a sleeping giant. From some cells, inmates say you can hear whispers, but whether they're echoes, memories, or something else entirely, no one can tell. The Bureau of Prisons calls ADX Florence a clean, efficient correctional environment. But former staff call it a psychological experiment with a mailing address. Here, every man is alone with the one person he can't escape, himself. And that, perhaps, is the cruelest punishment of all. Because inside ADX Florence, there are no riots, no screams, no fights, Just quiet men learning what silence sounds like when it starts to talk back. And the scariest part? For most of them, this is forever. If this glimpse inside America's most secretive prison has already shaken you, stay tuned. Because in Chapter 2, we'll go deeper into what truly haunts the minds of those who live inside ADX. You'll learn about the experiments, the psychological collapses, and the haunting events that even guards refuse to discuss. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because what you'll hear next isn't just another story. It's a descent into the darkest experiment in modern incarceration. When you first hear about ADX Florence, you imagine control, order, precision, safety. But spend enough time studying it, and you realize it's not just a prison, it's a mirror. And the longer a man looks into that mirror, the more the reflection starts to move on its own. Inside the walls, time bends. It doesn't pass, it hovers. Days bleed into weeks, and weeks into years. Most inmates stop counting after a while. Birthdays, holidays, seasons, all dissolve into the same dim light bouncing off gray concrete. The clocks still tick, but they're not measuring time anymore. They're measuring decay. Psychologists who've studied ADX Florence call it a slow-motion collapse of identity. The human brain, they say, wasn't built for isolation this complete. Without new sounds, smells, or sights, the mind turns inward, replaying memories until they distort, inventing sensations just to feel something. One inmate, a former intelligence operative, told a court-appointed therapist that he could hear the sound of ocean waves every night. But when asked what ocean he was hearing, he said, "None. It's the sound of my blood." Another swore he saw people standing outside his window slit, waving to him from a horizon that doesn't exist. The Bureau denies such claims. They call them delusions. But then you hear from the guards, men who've spent decades walking those halls, and even they hesitate. One said he sometimes felt a vibration, like the building itself was alive, humming faintly beneath his boots. Another guard said he used to hum to himself during patrols, just to make sure he was still real. Then there's Cell 13, the one every new staff member hears about, but no one officially acknowledges. It's a section near the north wing, used for special containment. On paper, it's just another reinforced isolation cell. But rumor says that no camera stays operational there for long. Some say the sensors short out. Others say the inmates inside lose track of days, not because of isolation, but because something about that room swallows sound altogether. One night, years ago, a prisoner in Cell 13 was reported screaming for over 20 minutes. When guards arrived, they found him trembling in the corner, whispering about faces in the wall. There were no other inmates nearby. No holes, no openings, no wires. Just concrete. The story was never entered into official records, but among staff, it spread like wildfire, a warning cloaked as gossip. Don't linger near 13, they said. You might start hearing it too. Even in the control room, where a wall of monitors shows every inch of the prison, guards claim the feeds from that section sometimes flicker with static. For a facility known for precision, the unexplained becomes terrifying. Because in a place where everything is controlled, anything unexplainable becomes unbearable. But not all horrors are supernatural. Some are built into the architecture itself. The recreation cages are lined with mesh wire so thick that sunlight only filters in as scattered dots. When the wind howls through, the sound isn't natural. It's like a low moan, echoing across the empty yards. For many, that's the only sound of the outside world they'll ever hear again. Then there are the letters, hundreds of them, all censored, all delayed, all cataloged. Some inmates write entire pages just to describe what silence tastes like. One wrote, "It's like chewing air that fights back." Another wrote to his lawyer, "They told me it was the cleanest prison in America." But no one mentioned that even cleanliness can drive you insane. The guards don't speak about the suicides, but the psychologists do, quietly, clinically. They describe men who begin to scratch at the walls with fingernails until they bleed, convinced that if they dig far enough, they'll find an exit. They describe hallucinations so vivid that prisoners beg to be moved to the infirmary, not because of pain, but because they need to hear another human voice, even if it's a doctor saying no. Even the chaplain, one of the few allowed human contact with inmates, once described walking into a cell and feeling a pressure in the air, as if sorrow itself had weight. He said prayers sound different in there, like the walls swallow the words before they can rise. And yet, ADX continues. It operates with precision, like an unfeeling machine. To the outside world, it's proof that America can control the uncontrollable. But to those who've lived or worked inside, it's proof that control has a cost. Because when you build a place to silence the worst of humanity, you end up silencing something else too. Empathy, emotion, even the will to understand. Late at night, when the prison sleeps under its electric hum, the security cameras catch something almost poetic, a small flicker of light from each narrow window. It's not fire or movement or anything supernatural. It's just the moonlight breaking through the slit and touching the concrete floor for a brief second. For a moment, the cell doesn't look like a tomb. It looks like a reminder that the world is still out there, just beyond reach. And maybe that's what truly haunts the people of ADX Florence. Not the crimes, not the silence, not even the endless years. It's the realization that freedom is visible, but untouchable. That life goes on, and you're just close enough to see it, but never to feel it again. As one former inmate wrote after his release, ADX doesn't punish the body. It punishes the soul. You don't hear the screams. You feel them echo in your own head, long after you leave. That's why even the guards, the psychologists, the workers, they never quite leave ADX behind. They carry it like a shadow. Because when you've seen what silence can do to a human being, you understand something terrifying. The worst prison isn't made of walls. It's made of memories. Closing CTA for Chapter 2. If this story shook you, if you felt the chill of what isolation can really do, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. The next investigation dives even deeper into America's prison psychology, where control, fear, and faith collide. Because what happens inside ADX Florence doesn't stay there. It follows you.